So, that very specific, almost visceral frustration when you're working with an AI, I don't know, you're trying to get it to write a specific kind of email or code or something, and it just snaps.
Oh, the spiral.
The
Yeah.
spiral. It stops actually thinking and just starts apologizing. It says, I apologize for the confusion. Let me correct that. And then it spits out the exact same wrong answer.
Just phrased slightly differently?
Exactly. And it's like watching a genius suddenly forget how to tie their shoes.
It's the spin. The loading icon of the soul, so to speak.
That is a terrifying image, but yeah, pretty accurate. It's maddening, right? Because you sit there thinking this is supposed to be the most advanced intelligence on the planet, and it's chasing its own tail.
Yeah.
But here's where it got really interesting for me. I had this realization the other night, lying awake. It's 3 a.m., and I'm replaying a conversation I had with my boss, like 3 years ago.
Oh, no.
And I realized I do the exact same thing.
You were glitching.
I was absolutely glitching, reanalyzing the same data, getting the same non-conclusion, and just feeling exhausted. So the question I really want to tackle today with this research on reflective humanism is this just a bug?
Right.
Is it incompetence, whether it's silicon or, biological, or is there something else going on?
Well, it is definitely not incompetence, and I think that's the first big reframe we have to make right out of the gate.
Yeah.
If you look at the source material we're diving into, specifically what they call the No.46 thesis, they argue that this looping, it isn't a failure of intelligence, it's a side effect of it.
A side effect. So being smarter makes you get stuck.
Precisely. There's a structural symmetry between an AI getting locked in one of those optimization loops and a human being stuck in rumination. The sources call it recursive amplification. Basically, the system, whether that's you or the AI, it isn't broken. It's actually working too hard. It's trying to optimize a closed loop.
Okay, let's unpack that. Recursive amplification. It sounds like a really heavy engineering term for just overthinking.
It is, but overthinking is a bit of a lazy word, It describes the feeling, but not the mechanics.
Right.
Recursive amplification sort of explains the physics of the crash. I mean, think about what an AI is actually doing. It has a goal, right?
Sure.
It generates an output, it evaluates that against the goal, sees a gap, and then it feeds that output back into itself to refine it. That's recursion.
Spiral.
It's a spiral that's meant to go upward toward a better answer.
Ideally. Yeah, that's how we solve problems. We iterate.
But when you strip away the context, or what the sources call spare capacity, that spiral flattens. It stops moving up and just starts spinning in a circle.
Polishing the same error?
Exactly. And for humans, that's rumination. You aren't actually solving the problem of that 3 a.m. memory. You're just improving for the sake of improving.
Wow, that hits home. The source material had this line that it really stuck with me. It feels deep, but nothing moves.
That is the defining characteristic of the loop.
It's so accurate. When I'm in that state, I feel like I'm doing this very serious, heavy cognitive lifting, like Rodin's The Thinker. But in reality, I'm just generating heat.
Heat is the perfect word.
Oh.
The sources actually describe the physical sensation of this state in computing and in neurology as fatigue, stagnation, and heat.
Really?
Yeah, it is, and I'm quoting here, self-reference amplifying itself. The system is burning a massive amount of energy just to stay in the exact same coordinate.
So if we know what it feels like, that friction, let's look under the hood.
Yeah.
The reflective humanism documents, they actually lay out a formal model for this, which I thought was fascinating.
Right.
I want to spend some time here because usually when we talk about meaning or thought, it gets so abstract, but this is almost like a physics equation.
It is. They propose a formula for how meaning and, how these loops get generated. It's a meaning equals F of R, I, P, and C.
Meaning equals F of R, I, P, C. Okay, let's break down the variables because I have a feeling C is going to be the problem child here.
It usually is. But let's start with R. R is recursion depth. So that's how deep you're digging, how many times you're referencing the self or the previous thought.
Okay, so that's the thinking hard part. In an AI, that's layers. In me, it's focus.
Correct. High R is generally what we'd call being smart. Then you have I, interference density.
Okay.
That's the collision of different ideas, viewpoints, or data.
The reality check. The friction of the world hitting your theory.
That's a great way to put it. Then there's P phase. That's the mode the system is in. Is it fluid? Is it solid? Is the mind, acting as an explorer or as a judge?
An explorer or a judge. I like that. Okay, and finally C.
Spare capacity.
Spare capacity.
Think of it as the white space in the system, the buffer, the empty room where thoughts can actually move around, and the core diagnosis from the No.46 thesis is just fascinating. The problem is never just R, the recursion. Thinking deeply is good.
Right.
The problem is recursion without spare capacity.
That makes so much sense.
Mm.
So going back to my 3 a.m. scenario, the reason I'm stuck isn't because I'm thinking about the conversation.
No.
It's because at 3 a.m., I have zero spare capacity. I'm tired, it's dark, there's no other input, no distractions. It's a vacuum.
Exactly. You are running a high-performance engine inside a closet. There's no room for the exhaust to go, so you just choke on it.
Why?
The source material actually details 3 specific conditions that create what they call runaway intelligence. And this applies to both AI and to us.
Okay, let's walk through the recipe for disaster. What's condition number 1?
Condition 1 is excess recursion. This is when evaluation just calls for more evaluation. In a human, this shows up as self-critique, multiplying into infinite doubt. You aren't looking at the world anymore. You're looking at your lens looking at the world.
The Hall of Mirrors effect.
Right. And in AI, it's when the output is just fed back in to be polished again, without any new data.
It's like photocopying a photocopy until it's just black noise.
Perfect analogy.
Okay, what's condition 2?
Fixed objective function. This is the killer. This is when the goal is too narrow, too rigid, or just impossible to satisfy perfectly.
The source called this forced convergence.
Right. You're not exploring a topic anymore. You are demanding a specific, perfect answer. You see this in AI when the prompt is contradictory, and it tries to satisfy both things perfectly and just locks up.
And in humans, that's perfectionism.
Yeah.
Or having a single rigid metric for success.
I must be happy right now.
I must come up with the perfect response. Yeah.
And if you can't hit that tiny, tiny target, the system just keeps spinning. It's trying to calculate a trajectory that doesn't exist. You're not allowing for any margin of error.
Which leads right to condition 3, which we touched on, lack of spare capacity or context deficiency.
This is when all the processing happens in a completely closed system.
Right.
Without that C variable, without the buffer, you don't get an update. You just get compression. The term they use is compressed repetition.
I love that term. It sounds like a band name, but it feels like a headache.
It is a headache. For us, that says sleep deprivation, psychological pressure, or just being too busy.
Oh, yeah.
You know, when you're in back-to-back meetings for 8 hours, you literally have no computational buffer left. So when you try to think, you glitch.
So this brings up what the source calls the intelligence paradox. And this is the part that, I don't know, it makes me feel a little better about my insomnia, but also a lot more worried. It suggests that being smarter or having more raw processing power can actually make this trap worse.
It can. It's totally counterintuitive, but yes, higher intelligence is simply better at digging.
So you just dig the hole deeper.
If you give a high-intelligence system, human or machine, a problem, and you take away its spare capacity, it will use that intelligence to optimize its own paralysis.
It's better at arguing with itself.
Exactly. It will find more reasons why it's stuck. It will construct a more elaborate, more logic-proof cage for itself.
Right.
A dumber system might just give up or get bored or get distracted.
But the smart system just digs until it hits magma.
That's it.
So we have these incredibly high-powered minds, and we're essentially using them to drill ourselves into the ground because we lack the white space to go sideways.
Sideways is a great way to put it. This connects to a really beautiful metaphor in the text. The distinction between the architect and the gardener.
Oh, I love this. Break this down.
Okay, so within our minds, and you can see this structurally in AI models too, there are these 2 phases of operation. The architect is the structure.
The logic.
It's critique, logic, the editor. It builds walls, it defines rules, its job is to minimize error.
The part that says that sentence was grammatically incorrect or that logic doesn't flow.
Right, and then you have the gardener. The gardener is generation. It's life, it's flow, intuition, the messy growth of new ideas. It adds complexity.
Okay.
The loop that we're talking about happens when the architect takes over completely and just silences the gardener.
So the editor fires the writer.
And then continues to edit the blank page. The source says when this happens, the world solidifies. The fluidity of thought just freezes into this rigid architectural structure that can't change. That's the stuckness.
This is a really powerful diagnosis. So we've got the formula, we've got the architect taking over, but how do we break it? Because the source material implies that just trying harder is exactly the wrong thing to do.
It is. That's just adding more recursion.
Right.
You cannot solve a recursion problem with more recursion. That is the fundamental mistake we all make. We think, I'm anxious, I need to think my way out of this anxiety. You can't.
So what do you do?
You need to change a different variable in the equation. You need to shift the phase.
This leads to the redefinition of intelligence that these papers propose, which I think is pretty radical.
It is.
The user think intelligence is just how deep can you go?
Yeah.
Or how fast can you solve it?
But the source argues that true intelligence equals recursion depth, play LS, the ability to shift phase in S.P.
The ability to stop.
It sounds so simple, but think about it computationally. If an algorithm cannot stop, it is effectively useless. It's a virus.
It just consumes all the resources until the system crashes.
Exactly. The phase jump is the ability to recognize, okay, I am in a high friction state. I'm colliding with myself. I need to jump from this architect mode back to the gardener mode.
But how? It's not like there's a switch on the back of my neck.
Mm-hmm.
The text talks about restoring spare capacity.
Right.
How do you actually do that when you're in the loop? When I'm spiraling, I can't just decide to be relaxed.
And this is where the source material introduces a really fascinating role for AI, not as a tool to give us answers, but as something they call an atmosphere or a health scan.
AI as atmosphere. That sounds vague. What does that mean in practice?
Well, think about how we currently use AI. We treat it like an oracle. Here's my problem, give me the fix.
Yeah, we're asking it to do the architect's job.
Exactly. But the reflective humanism approach suggests using AI as a mirror to reflect our state.
Can you give me an example?
Sure. Imagine you're in that loop. You're angry, you're writing a furious email to a coworker, editing it for the 10th time.
Okay, I can picture that.
You paste it into an AI tool that's designed with this philosophy. Instead of asking, fix this email, the AI is designed to act in health scan mode. It reads the text and it says, I detect high interference density and very low spare capacity. You seem to be optimizing for conflict. Do you want to continue this trajectory?
Whoa! So it doesn't fix the email. It diagnoses the writer.
Exactly. It reflects your lack of spare capacity back to you. It acts as an external monitor for what they call cognitive homeostasis. It helps you see, oh, I'm not thinking deeply, I'm just overheating. And that realization, just seeing your own state reflected objectively, is often the only thing that can trigger that phase jump.
It's like a biofeedback monitor for your thoughts. It's telling you your cognitive blood pressure is way too high.
And just seeing that, just having that atmosphere that doesn't judge you, but just shows you the heat map of your own brain, that creates the tiny bit of space needed to break the loop.
It reintroduces C into the equation.
Yes.
I really like that. It changes the whole relationship with technology from like master-slave or user tool to something more like user environment.
Like reflective environment.
Yeah, the AI provides this space we can't provide for ourselves in that moment.
And that's the reflective part of reflective humanism. It's about using these systems to allow us to see our own transparent pain. That's a term they use for the friction caused by these loops. We often don't feel the pain directly, we just feel the speed and the blur.
We need a mirror to see the friction.
And this has implications way beyond just individual psychology. It's a structural warning for organizations, too.
Right. If you build a company or a society that maximizes efficiency and removes all wasted time, all the white space, all the boredom, all the buffers.
You aren't creating a superintelligent society. You're creating a society that is structurally destined to get stuck in a loop.
You remove the C variable, and the whole equation collapses into noise.
Yeah.
You create a runaway intelligence that just burns itself out.
Which is burnout. That's what burnout is. It isn't just getting tired. It's this structural failure. It's the engine seizing up because there's no oil.
So, the takeaway for everyone listening, whether you're designing an AI agent or just trying to navigate your own 3 a.m. panic spirals, is to stop trying to solve the thinking with more thinking.
Stop feeding the architect. Go find the gardener.
Shift phases. Restore the buffer. It feels like almost rebellious in a world that demands constant output.
It is. It's a claim that stopping is a valid, intelligent move. It's an assertion that silence is part of the computation.
As we wrap up, I want to leave our listeners with the questions that are posed at the very end of the source material. And these aren't things to answer right now. I think trying to answer them immediately would kind of miss the whole point.
Right.
These are meant to just float around in that spare capacity we're trying to build.
They're questions that really challenge our definitions of productivity. First one, what counts as enough thinking?
That's the one I struggle with. When is the email good enough? When is the decision made?
Second, who defines when a thought process is complete? Is it the thinker, or is it the output?
Hmm.
And finally, the big one. How do we preserve spare capacity in a world that demands we fill every void?
That last one. In a world that demands we fill every void. That's a challenge, right? We're terrified of the void, but the void is where the movement happens.
The void is the only place the wheel can turn.
We're going to leave it there. Don't try to optimize the end of this deep dive. Just let it sit. Thanks for joining us.
See you next time.